Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Opening Act, an interview show with me, your host, Brandon Hilder. Today, I also have a co-host with me, my dad, Todd Hilder. Today, we are interviewing Kenny Lee Benson from the band Doo-Wah Riders. How are you doing today, Kenny?
I'm doing great today.
Oh, that's really good. Love great days. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the Doo-Wah Riders? Like, what kind of music do you guys play? And
Doo-Wah Riders have been together for 45 years, and I am the only original member left. We started off as a Western swing band. We were big fans of Bob Wills and Asleep at the Wheel, and actually still am a huge fan of that music and those acts. As we stayed together, we've always been willing to experiment and try new things, and we started bringing accordion into the band a number of years ago, and probably my fault. I'm also a big fan of Zydeco and Cajun music, and I started bringing the accordion in, and we kind of stumbled onto a new sound that was country but had that little bit of a Cajun feel to it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we've been doing ever since.
Yeah. That's really cool.
It sets us apart. It sets us apart from everybody else. And
yeah. When did you start playing the accordion?
I did not start playing the accordion until I was about 30 years old.
Wow.
In fact, I hated the accordion as a kid, and one of my best friends when I was going to college in Albuquerque, New Mexico at UNM was a Cajun from Youngsville, Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And he started bugging me to listen to this Clifton Chenier record. He said, "You need to hear this accordion player." And I said, yeah, I don't think so. And he bugged me for about 2 weeks. And finally, I sat down, and he put the record on, and I was hooked in 10 seconds. I was like, "What is this?" He said, "It's Zydeco." And I said, "This is really cool," and became a big Clifton Chenier fan, a big Zydeco fan. And as time went on, I decided to, try playing accordion myself. So I went out and bought one, and here we are.
Wow. That's really, really cool.
Another big influence was Joel Saunier. And when he came around in the 80s, he's a Grammy award-winning Cajun artist. But for a while, he had a Nashville, country deal. And he was the one that really brought the, kind of the Cajun artist, but he brought it into country. And I thought what he was doing was really cool and really inspiring, and that inspired me to, say, hey, I wonder what would happen if we bring accordion into our music.
So, other than that, what other bands and songs inspire you while writing your music?
What other bands and songs?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm a music junkie. I listen to pretty much everything.
Me too.
And I've had so many inspirations. Coming up as a musician, the 70s were a great era for singer-songwriters. And I think that's, I do play. I'm a pretty good player, but I think my strongest suit is as a songwriter. And those were the guys that inspired me a lot. I love, Ian Tyson just passed away. And he's been a huge influence on me. He wrote great songs. Canadian cowboy that, wrote kind of more folk songs in the back in the 60s, and then kind of became kind of morphed off into Western or cowboy music. Who else? Well, Steve Goodman, John Prine, James Taylor. Like I said, I listened to everything from Led Zeppelin to African music to jazz to a little bit of everything, and I love discovering new music. I had a theory back when I was very young, and I'll qualify this by saying this theory is completely wrong, but I thought that by understanding music and getting a passion for music from different cultures is a way to understand those cultures. Mm-hmm. And it's really off base, but it did lead me to discover amazing music.
Yeah.
And with the accordion, listening to Flaco Jimenez and a lot of the Tejano music, and just some. Flaco Jimenez is an amazing accordion player.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about finding new music is you can sit down and just learn right there, and sometimes what you find you love, sometimes you don't. It's a really cool thing, and I love doing it, so I totally get that.
It really is, and having a band like the Doo-Wah Riders that's not afraid to experiment. When we discover new things, it's fun to bring elements of that into our music. Like, for instance, if you've seen us before, we've always had great fiddle players.
Mm-hmm.
And our Orange Blossom Special, which goes on for 10 minutes, it's always kind of a work in progress, because we find new things that will be fun or interesting, and like our version right now starts off with a little bit of Crazy Train, because again, the Orange Blossom Special, it's a train, so we have a second of Crazy Train, and then Shipping Off to Boston by the Dropkick Murphys. We go into some Stevie Wonder, some Duke Ellington.
Wow.
Even a little bit of Pitbull.
Go from the classic rock to the Irish trad punk to Pitbull. Wow.
Yeah, but you hear things, and like, again, like the instrumental line on Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Off to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real catchy, cool line that sounds great with fiddle and accordion.
Yeah, so they all just work together. That's really cool. I would have never even thought of that if I was somebody to compose music.
Well, that's the other thing that's fun for us and for a Doo-Wah Writer show for the audience is you hear things you're not expecting to hear.
Yeah.
Recently, in the past year, we've got a new version of Devil Went Down to Georgia. And in the middle of it, we kick into Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Wow. I want to hear that.
It's pretty fun.
If you come play Montana, then I'll have to go and watch that. But
well, we're just getting our fair dates together right now, so hopefully we'll be back in Montana or close by you.
We'll have to check that out. Hopefully that happens. What is your favorite part about making and playing music?
Well, it's a passion for me, and it always has been. And, so it's something I love to do, and being able to make your living doing what you love, it just doesn't get any better than that. At the same time, it's a tough way to make a living. It's, if you've gotten into the music business for the money, you're really off base.
Yeah. There's only so many bands in the world that have been able to really pull that one off.
Yeah, and most of the bands I know, they do it for the love of it. It's and 1 out of a million strikes it rich. But even some of those bands that strike it rich, very few of them have kept going for 45 years.
When you truly enjoy something, you definitely won't want to stop, unless you absolutely have to. But
if you don't love it, you really shouldn't be doing it. It can really be too hard a life.
If you're doing something you do love, you'll never really work a day in your life, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's the way I was raised, although my father did not expect me to become a musician.
If you didn't become a musician, what other things would you be doing, like right now?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I always I haven't done it, but I always wanted to become a pilot.
Wow.
And for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been getting into drones. So I fly a drone around, but I haven't gotten a pilot's license yet. I keep threatening to take flying lessons, but I don't know. I'd probably be doing some job that I didn't really like.
Yeah, now you're doing what you love, so it'd be hard to want to do anything else.
Yes.
On your album, Big Small World, which I've been listening to a lot recently, there was one song that really, really stands out to me, and that song is called These Hands. Could you tell me a little bit about the motivation for that song?
That's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's, again, it's from the heart, and it talks about, the love and the passion for whatever it is you do, whether you're, a woodworker, a carpenter, whether you build things, or, people that are dedicated to their farms and growing things, farmers, ranchers, and musicians the same way. That I think there's 3 different characters in the song, and the thing they all have in common is that they have a passion for what they do, and they work hard at it.
What do you think is important about working hard and putting your best work forth?
I don't know. I'm kind of I've always been kind of a workaholic, and I think that's hard work. I find it rewarding. I find it keeps it keeps me involved. It keeps me inspired. If you don't work hard for the things you have, you don't tend to appreciate them.
I absolutely agree with that.
I think it makes you appreciate the things more when you've had to sacrifice a lot for it.
I remember one summer I helped build a big old feeder for cattle where we'd put hay in there. I remember I spent a long time making that thing. I remember every time I'd see the cows go up there and eat from it, I'd be like, wow, I did that. It's like, how cool is that?
Yeah, I know. It's rewarding to look at that.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling to be able to be proud of the work that you do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think working hard's a really important thing. And I hope it's something that can continue being said for years to come, because it is important. And if you don't work hard, you won't appreciate what you have.
Yeah. I don't the people that don't work hard, that I don't think they really appreciate the great things that come their way. Sometimes take it for granted and makes their career short-lived. I don't know if you've ever watched the Behind the Music series that they used to have on, I think it was MTV or something. But all these, they all started running together because it was, it would start off with like a group of people that they were all friends or whatever, and they started playing music, and they hit it huge, and then all the infighting and egos, and then they break up, and they all thought they were going to go on to more $1 million deals, and for most of them that didn't happen, and now 10, 20 years later, and they've reformed. They've come back together to go do a tour because they didn't realize how good they had it.
Yeah, and it's sad how much that happens. And I've seen, just doing my research on YouTube and watching videos about it and even experiencing it from a fan standpoint, I see it, and it's sad when that happens.
You know, but it's you just never know. You have to appreciate the things you have, but again, it's probably the hardest thing in this business is keeping a group together, putting 5 creative people together 24-hour, 24/7, and traveling on the road in close quarters, and there's so many challenges, and and a lot of them have nothing to do with music. You get married, you have kids. We've lost 4 or 5 people because they had a baby and they wanted to be good dads, so they couldn't go running around on the road all the time with a band.
Yeah.
And my dad was that way, so I've never I not only don't hold it against anybody, I respect these guys that put their families first.
Yeah. Putting your family first is definitely an important thing, because family it's family. It's what you got. It's what you'll have.
It should be.
Yeah, I agree. On your website, I noticed that you play some shows in schools. What does it mean to you to be able to play in front of these kids?
That happened. That was an interesting turn of events. We have some friends called the Alley Cats. They're a four-piece a cappella group. They do kind of doo-wop music of the 50s. Mm-hmm. And we've been friends forever. And they did school shows. And Mondo, the leader of the Alley Cats, approached me one day, and he said, I think you guys would be really good at school shows. And I said, well, what's that all about? And he said, well, you don't come in and just do a concert. You come in and you have to have a curriculum, and it's got to be a teaching experience. And I was like, I don't know if that's really for us. I don't know if that's what we do. So he got together with me, and we put together a school show. And again, we didn't know whether we were going to like it or not. And from the very first one, it was so rewarding. Our school show, we come in, we play a song. We talk about country music. We talk about some of the history. We talk about how it evolved. We talk about the roots of country music, and every time we talk about one of the roots, we play musical examples. So we talk about folk music. So we'll play This Land Is Your Land, because all the kids know that one, and we'll talk about gospel music. We'll talk about blues. Talk about a little, kind of old 50s style rock and roll, and just show how all those roots combine to make country what it is. And then we'll end up playing examples of some of the modern country music, and it's great to share our love of country music with these kids. And it's one thing doing the school shows out in California where there's a lot of country music, and face it, you're out west, cowboys aren't that rare. But when we were working for a number of years, there was a school system in New Jersey, which was real culture shock for us. Flying to New Jersey and navigating around that area. But most of those kids had never seen a guy in a cowboy hat before.
Wow.
So their eyes were just wide as saucers and just looking at us. And so being able to share what we do and what we love and turning them on to it. And like I was talking about our music, what kind of sets the doo-wah riders apart is we do bring different elements into our country music. And so one of the things we stress in our school show is keeping an open mind, not being afraid to listen to different kinds of music and new kinds of experiences, keeping an open mind, and creating something of your own.
Yeah.
The other part of our school show, everybody gets 5 minutes to talk about their instrument and kind of inspire the kids to go, maybe I want to do that. And our old fiddle player, Keith, that's probably who you saw play with us. I loved it when Keith did the school show because the reason he started playing the violin is he had been to a school show just like one of ours.
Wow.
And saw a little red-haired girl playing the violin. And he was like, I want to do that. And he went home and asked his mom if he could get violin lessons. You kind of keep that in your head that, some of these kids, they're going to see you play and they're going to go home and ask for guitar lessons or bass lessons. And of course, every kid loves the drums. I focus, a lot of the kids play piano, so I talk about, how no matter what instrument you want to play, the piano is just a great musical foundation to have. It's a great place to start. And even if you don't want to keep playing keyboards, even if you want to branch out to guitar, the way the keyboard is laid out and having it right in front of you, it's how important it is. And then I demonstrate the accordion and the harmonica, which some of the kids aren't familiar with.
Yeah, my dad plays the harmonica, or at least used to.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I tell the kids is that I said, I started playing when I was 10, 11 years old, and the thing I love about it is it's in your pocket. You can carry it with you. You can make music anytime you feel like it.
That's a nifty little tool. Have you guys had a favorite venue that you've played?
I saw that question, and we've done over 200 shows a year for over 40 years. To look back on, 8,000 gigs that we've done, and sometimes it's not the venue itself, although there's places that are just so cool. A club like the $1 Million Cowboy Bar in Jackson, Wyoming. That's just a cool venue. Or we did Mayfest once in Germany, and we were in a town called Osnabrück, and they had a huge concert stage set up in the middle of town, and thousands of people, and we were set up in front of this church that had been built in the 1600s, and just standing on stage and looking out at all that, just
Wow.
amazing. We did a private party once where they just rented a piece of land overlooking Sedona, Arizona, and all those red rocks, and it was hard for me to keep looking at the audience and not turning around and looking at the view behind me because it was just breathtaking. We did another one. We did a corporate party, actually with Willie Nelson, and the same thing. Somebody had rented just some desert land out in Arizona, and they brought in a concert stage and lights and production. They went around and all the cactus that are just there, they put little lights on all of them.
Wow.
It was just amazing experience. Other times it's the audience that kind of makes the venue. We just did my favorite concert in 2022, there's a very small town in Arizona, Globe, Arizona. It was a mining town. And, boy, when a lot of the mines shut down, it's a small town to begin with, but also a very poor town. And it's not a glamorous place to be. In the last few years, we've noticed that with the price of copper, they're mining again. And we noticed that the downtown area is really cleaned up. But I guess all I'm saying is we weren't in a glamorous area or an exciting area. But we did this show. The venue was in the auditorium of their local school. But we had about 600 people, and they were totally into what we were doing.
Wow.
And the energy that we got from the audience, and it just made it my favorite show of the year.
Wow.
So it's not always the physical venue. I think the ones I enjoy the most are those kind of those big old theaters that sometimes it was an old movie house that they've made into a performing arts center.
We got one of those in my town.
Really?
Yeah, it's called the Rialto.
What town are you in?
I'm in Deer Lodge, Montana.
Oh, in Deer Lodge. Okay.
Yeah, we got a really old theater.
We have been through there. We haven't played there yet, but we did play one. Oh God! Once again, mining town. We did a venue called the Music Ranch, Montana, outside of Billings.
I've been there,
and that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's really pretty over there.
Would love to go back there.
You should. I'm sure we'll be there if you do.
Cool. Well, I'm going to send out a note to them.
There you go. Might as well.
God, what is the name of that town?
I mean, the main town that comes to my mind with mining is like Anaconda in the Butte area.
I think it was Anaconda.
Is it Anaconda? With the big big stack that they have sticking out of the hillside there?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, they're really known for their mining history.
Yes, and it was the Wahoo Theater in Anaconda. What a great venue.
It's wild. You played like 30 minutes away from us.
Oh, man. Oh, we would love to come back to that theater because we had such an amazing experience there.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. And then also talking about playing all these venues, this is how I first found out about you when I was little. You played at the East Idaho State Fair. So you play a lot of fairs. Do you have a favorite fair food from all these fairs that you've been to?
Yeah, none of them are good for you.
That's probably true.
But we have been playing a lot of fairs. You know, in the last 10, 15 years, you could probably tell by the conversation that we've sort of branched into the performing arts centers where we're able to do more original music, and the audience is fair. I love playing the fairs. I love playing for a family audience. But there's a lot of distractions. So you do a ballad like These Hands, or We Need to Have a Little Talk, or Hillbilly Ranch, kind of all the little subtleties and nuances of those songs kind of get lost. So our fair shows a little more high energy. We love playing fairs. That's why we keep doing them. But getting to the food, there's your standard fair food that, you know, corn dogs and funnel cakes and stuff that I love it all.
Oh yeah.
But we do so many fairs, and most of the fairs we do will have us back. So there's fairs like the Puyallup Fair up in Puyallup. I guess now it's the Washington State Fair, but in Puyallup, Washington. We've played that fair 10, 15 times. And once you keep going back, you find one, there's something special at every fairgrounds. And then when you go back, you look forward to getting the scones at Puyallup, or Old West cinnamon rolls in Grass Valley, or a gyro at Alameda County Fair. So all these different fairs have like one vendor that you were talking about the Eastern Idaho State Fair. There was in Blackfoot, there was a pie vendor that with homemade pies that was right near our stage, and we visited them a number of times.
Wow. That's so cool.
So everybody's got, and that's part of the fun of playing the fairs. A couple months we're going to go to the Poteet Strawberry Festival in Poteet, Texas, and our bass player, when he saw that on the schedule, the first thing out of his mouth was gorditas. I don't know if there's one particular fair food that's a favorite.
Yeah. I know personally, I think my favorite fair food is probably a turkey leg. Can't really beat that. Yeah.
I know. I love watching people walk around with those. I'm not a big turkey leg fan.
They're huge. They're so huge. And then I got my dad sitting here next to me. Do you have a favorite fair food?
I am pretty partial to a turkey leg, but
those are really popular.
Deep fried bacon was pretty life-changing. When someone's going to give you, instead of ketchup, when they're going to give you country gravy to dip your deep fried bacon in, that's pretty magical.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I've never had that.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Basically like country fried steak.
When we're playing in Canada and North Dakota State Fair that we did this past summer, they have poutine, and something you don't get down south here.
Oh, that stuff's great. Yeah, I love that too.
My
Music and food, those are two great things.
Plate.
Yeah, there you go. But you got to go eventually, so you might as well go with a smile on your face.
Amen.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what just happened there. Oh, fair food. It's wonderful. So, my favorite song from you guys is probably Living in Las Vegas. It's a great song. I've listened to it a lot. So do you have a favorite Do All Rider song?
I do, but I'll tell you something since you like that song so much. It's an interesting story. We were playing at a New York casino during National Finals Rodeo, and a guy came up to me, and it turns out he was a demo singer in Nashville, and he's the guy that he doesn't, he's not a big star himself, but the songwriters, he's such a great singer that the songwriters will come to him. He'll do a demo of their song, and then they'll shop it to all the different artists. And he loved our band, and he goes, you know what? He said, I'm a demo singer in Nashville. And he said, I did this demo last week. And he said, I sang a song that would be perfect for you guys. And I said, really? I said, what song is that? And he said, loving you is like living in Las Vegas. And I said, man, I haven't even heard the song yet, and I already like it. And I said, who wrote it? And he said, a guy named Bob Regan. Well, it turns out Bob Regan is a really good friend of ours. So I called Bob, and I asked him if he would give us the song. And there was another artist who did have a record deal, and I can't think of his name right now, but it was on hold for him. And then he actually released it, but the song didn't go anywhere. So Bob called me back a few months later and said, yeah, you could have the song. He was kind of one of our first friends that moved to Nashville as a songwriter to try to make it. And he's had a lot of success, and we've recorded a few of his songs. My favorites, well, the three songs that I mentioned, that These Hands and We Need to Have a Little Talk, and that one in particular, that was so much from the heart. And when my wife passed away in 2009, she was 42 years old, and so I went to, it was a very bad period, and that's, again, music is a lot of times not only what you do for a living or what you do because you love to do it, but it's also my therapy. And so that song's very special to me. And same with Hillbilly Ranch. When I moved from New Mexico to Boston to go to music school, and I had been pretty much self-taught until I was in my 20s. And then I thought, well, I better get serious about this. I was in Boston for about a year and a half. I was a real fish out of water. And I started going to school, and I ran out of money and started playing with this country band, and we played a bar called the Hillbilly Ranch. And it was in a really rough part of town, and a lot of the people that hung out there were from the Deep South, and they'd come up to Boston to work in the mills. And the mills shut down in the 1970s, and these guys had no home to go back to and kind of nowhere to go, and they'd hang out at the Hillbilly Ranch. And I became friends with this one guy, and we talked a lot, and he talked about he talked to me a lot about his life and the farm that he was from in Georgia. And so that's where the song Hillbilly Ranch comes from. It's really a true story. Those are my favorites. Those are the most rewarding for me.
I think I'm going to pass the mic to my dad. He had a question to ask you, so here he is.
So, you were mentioning Willie Nelson, and, for over 40 years of music, I imagine you got to rub shoulders with some great musicians. And one I wanted to ask you about was, really just a great, I don't know, I loved listening to his music growing up, especially in my teen years. But Charlie Daniels just was my favorite musician. I tried to go chase him at all the fairs and all the venues I could find as a teenager. And so what did it mean to you to be able to share the stage with Charlie? And did you have any special memories with him? We know he's passed now, but his music's still amazing, and still people just absolutely love it, I think.
Well, you picked out one of my favorite people in the world, and if you have heroes, two of my biggest heroes, two of the people that I admire the most were Charlie Daniels and Chris Ledoux. And what they had in common, not just their music, but the way they treated their band, the way they treated their fans. Charlie he was one of the most down-to-earth, real people you could ever meet. And we probably opened for him 5 or 6 times. But at one point, for 16 years, we were the house band for the Academy of Country Music, and we did all their events. So we were kind of the backup band. And we'd either have people that we rehearsed with that we would back up. Pretty much everybody. Toby Keith, Neil McCoy, And the Colin Ray. The biggest one, though, was Charlie Daniels was the celebrity guest for the Academy of Country Music Golf Tournament. So at the end of they had a big party afterwards where everybody got up and sat in with us. But as the host, Charlie was going to get up and sing a couple of songs, and his manager brought me over to talk to him. And he said, it just, and this is the kind of guy Charlie was. He didn't want, he said, listen, as soon as we're done here tonight, we're getting on the bus and we have a 15-hour drive. He said, so if I only get up and play one or two songs, please don't be insulted. It's not you guys. It's, I've got a long trip ahead of me. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And he said, did you learn any of my material? And I said, well, we didn't really need to. We're big fans of yours. And he said, really? He said, well, what songs do you know? I started rattling off songs, South's Gonna Do It Again, Devil Went Down to Georgia, Long-Haired Country Boy, All Night Long. And I got to about 8 songs, and he got this little smile on his face. And he said, I think we're going to have a good time. And he got
I bet it was.
We got, for one glorious night, we were the Charlie Daniels band. So we backed up Charlie Daniels for over an hour.
Oh, man. How special was that?
It was one of the, if I had to pick one night of music in all my years of playing, that was at the very top of my list. Playing with him for that hour was just amazing.
Oh, man.
And he was so warm and so he just loved it that we loved his music so much. So after that, if we opened a concert for him, we opened for him at the Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota. And whenever we were around him, he would take time out to come visit with us. Once we were at Wyoming State Fair, he invited us on the bus to say hello. And actually, that's not exactly true. I went up to the road manager and I said, is it okay if we say hi to Charlie? And he said, let me go check. And he went back there and said, yeah, Charlie would love to see you guys. So we went back and we visited with him for about 5 minutes. And this is before his show. So after like 5 minutes, I didn't want to wear out our welcome. And I said, well, listen, I know, you're about to do a show. We're going to get out of your hair. And it was great to see you. And we all stood up and he said, sit down. I said, you're not bothering me. I said, I got nothing to do. I said, just sit down, relax. And we visited him for a few minutes more, and then we all skedaddled out of there. I didn't want to overstay our welcome. But that's the kind of guy he was. He treated everybody with so much respect.
That's awesome.
The Orleans Casino in Las Vegas. He played there every year, and once again we were at the Orleans, so we went back to say hi. But on his way to the stage, you have to go. They call it the Elvis walk, where you go down into the basement and walk through the kitchen, and then you come up where the showroom is. But he'd be walking through there, and a guy sweeping the floor wanted to say hi to him. He would stop and visit with everybody. And he was just as nice to the guy sweeping the floor as he was to the general manager of the casino. That's just who he was. And He treated his band like gold. They really were truly family.
And I think that's, listening to his music and, seeing him in concert, I think that he conveyed that to the fans. I think they felt like they were, they weren't just listening to his songs, but they were spending time with him and just getting, even though you weren't literally rubbing shoulders with him, you felt like you were when you were at one of his shows. I think that's why as a teenager, we always tried to chase him down anywhere we could, just because it was such a great experience.
Well, you got good taste. He's, I was heartbroken the day he died. Same with Chris Ledoux.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both of those, calling him a musician is just the tip of the iceberg. They're legends in what they did. And just beautiful music.
Both those guys, they were the real deal.
Absolutely.
What you saw on stage is who they were.
Yeah. Never got to meet Charlie. I always wanted to. I did get to meet his keyboardist Taz. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Got to meet him at the end of a show as he was wrapping up everything.
And they were all such nice people.
Yeah, just real people. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing those with us. Those are great. That was great.
Those are my favorite subjects.
Yeah.
Chris Ledoux was we were well, we still are great friends with all the guys in his band that we've known over the years. We were friends with KW Turnbow, his drummer. We were friends with KW before he was with Chris.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we got to pretty much meet everybody in the band and become friends. But Chris, for all the times I was around him, he was, I was so in awe of Chris Ledoux, I could barely talk to him.
Starstruck.
I was always very quiet and kind of kept my mouth shut.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, because if you keep your mouth shut, then you can listen to what he has to say, and just to be able to hear stories or any kind of wisdom from those guys, probably, pretty pivotal.
I'm sure, as you know, I mean, Chris, not only platinum selling recording artist, but world champion rodeo rider, and sculptor. He did these bronze statues that were amazing. I mean, he was an artist. I was like, how much talent can one guy have?
Right. That's awesome. And he shared it with so many people too.
He did. We were invited a few years back. They started doing Chris Ledoux days in KC, Wyoming. And if you've ever been through KC, it's a tiny town. But that's where Chris lived and raised his kids. And so they had this big festival. And one of the boys has a leather shop in the middle of town. He does saddles and belts, and also an artist. And we had gotten there the night before, and we're sitting in the shop and talking to a couple of his kids. And Will Ledoux, one of his sons, said something came up about the cabin, and it's kind of part of the Chris Ledoux myth that when he and Peggy first got married, and he's in his early 20s, and he built this log cabin from the ground up. And that's where they lived for a number of years. And something came up about the cabin, and I looked at Will and I said, "You mean there really is a cabin?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "I live in it." And I said, "What?" He goes,
Wow.
"Yeah, I live in the log cabin my dad built." And so he said, "You want to see it?" So we went over there with him, and he gave us a tour, and I was expecting, pretty rustic log cabin, and this was like the work of a master craftsman. And I said, "How did he learn how to do this? I mean, was his dad a carpenter?" He said, no, he just figured it out. You walk around that cabin, and again, it's not, cabin is really selling it short. It was a log home, but just beautifully done. It just done to perfection. I mean, I'd be happy if I could do that.
It's truly is wild that he could do so many things so incredibly.
Yeah, so many things, and just, again, world class at all of them. And then and most importantly of all, he was so good to his players. And again, there wasn't the star and the guys in the band. They were family.
It's been wonderful talking to you.
It's really, really a pleasure to talk to you, and it means the world to me that you guys have been listening to our music for all these years.
You guys are awesome. I hope you all know that. Yeah.
Thank you. It's nice to be reminded. It's a challenging world.
Sure, it definitely can be, can it?
If you know anybody at that theater in Deer Lodge, we'd love to come your way.
Well, I know the people, so let's see. Yeah, we'll see if we can make that happen.
Awesome. Great talking to you guys, and hope I'll run into you somewhere down the road.
I sure hope that too. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. It's been great getting to talk with you, and thank you for making this great music that I've been able to share with my kids, and really appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Before you go, I just wanted to say thank you to my school, Powell County High School, for letting me use their equipment. And I wanted to thank Mr. McConaughey and Miss Beery and all the other amazing teachers here for supporting me and helping me put this on. And also, big shout out to my dad and, of course, to Ken for letting me interview him. So with that, please don't forget to subscribe, share, like, all those other wonderful things, and have a good one.